forward today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
You're listening to Arkansas Preps Weekly on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
And here we go. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 50 of Arkansas Preps Weekly here on the Natural Fitness Network. Kyle Sutherland. I want to start off saying, if you have not already, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube to watch. You can also hit that notification bell so that way you're notified anytime we release an episode. Also, we're on the audio platforms, Apple, Stitcher, well, maybe not Stitcher, Spotify. I don't know if it's even still around. iHeartRadio, wherever you listen, we are there. We're continuing, of course, our hardwood edition. We've got 1 week left in the basketball regular season, of course, for Class 5 and 6A, and then the rest of the classifications 1 through 4A are concluding. For those that there's a few that don't have regional tournaments, not very many, but the few that didn't have districts last week are now starting regionals along with 1 through 4A. So looking forward to getting the last week of the pseudo regular season over, but with that, as we start the state tournament next week, we'll have a preview of that, but we're going to continue our coaching interviews that we've been doing throughout the second half of the season during the conference slate. So we're going to start it off with Greene County Tech girls coach Jason Smith. We're actually going to have an all NEA cast this week. We've kind of gone by regions over the past few weeks here, and this time we're going up to NEA, and so we're going to have Greene County Tech Jason Smith on first, and then Earl Miller from the boys coach from Earle from Class 1A. He will come on in the second segment. So really excited to talk to both of those guys. Both have coached in Northeast Arkansas for a long time. Both kind of around from that area. Both grew up there as well. So just a whole lot of knowledge, both with hoops and life in general. So excited to pick their brains a little bit. But we'll get it started with Greene County Tech head coach Jason Smith. Now joined by Greene County Tech girls coach Jason Smith. And Coach, really excited to have you on here. I know it's an exciting time for Greene County Tech girls basketball this year. You guys had a great run last season, and I really just kind of I know you still got a lot left to do, but have really kind of taken that to another level. So just kind of talk about the way that this season has gone. I mean, I know that you expected to have a really good squad, and your girls have certainly lived up to that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, I thank you for having me on. I don't know how many people told you no before you got to my name on the list, but no, for real, I appreciate it, and it's an awesome deal that you're doing. And you know, with basketball, with baseball, softball, everything, you know, I know that the coaches in the state really appreciate you, Kyle. But yeah, you know, it's been an awesome year so far. Kids who have really played at a high clip, and you know, anything we've challenged them to do that they've been able, they've kind of answered that call, and so it's an exciting time for the players, you know, and the fans and the parents. Just been a really, really good run here at Greene County Tech.
You were at Nettleton for a long time. We'll talk about that. You've been in NEA, I guess, basically your whole entire life. But this is year 3 for you, and you come into this week 26-2, 19. And I won't harp on the win streak too much, but come in on a 19-game win streak. The girls just clinched the second straight conference title last week. And as I mentioned, you know, you've got a lot of work to do, but when you come into a new place, and not that Greene County Tech was in a bad place when you got there by any means, but each season has gotten better since you've been there. And that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And just talk about the way that your kids have bought in. You know, Greene County Tech is, it's got a long line of success in girls athletics. And so I would imagine maybe from that aspect, it was possibly a little bit easier, but just talk about the buy-in that you've gotten since you've been there.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I think that I was very familiar with Greene County Tech, being a Northeast Arkansas guy, but then competing against them, you know, in the league for all those years at Nettleton. You know, I coached against Coach Cunningham and then Trey Harding for a long time, and then Coach Dean. So, yeah, Greene County Tech girls basketball is I just didn't want to screw anything up when I got here. But first year, you know, we knew that we were going to, you know, be young and you know, try to establish, you know, kind of the way that that we like to do things. Took some lumps. We won several games, but we really didn't. We never really felt like that we were quite where we wanted to be. But started 3 sophomores that year, and normally when you in 5A basketball, if you're going to start 3 sophomores, there'll be some growing pains, and there were, there was. But no, it's just a great community. Awesome kids, just everyday kids who will go to work for you, and great parents. I mean, it's been really, really cool and so refreshing. Kind of in this season of my career.
As we talked about, you were at Nettleton for 17 years, 13 conference titles there, and you've also coached at Valley View and Bay were the other 2 that you were at.
I started a funny story. I started off right out of I graduated from UCA, and my first job was at Cabot South, and Mike Neighbors actually hired me, and so I worked there for a year at Cabot, and then I came up to Bay. And then went over to Valley View, and I've been up here ever since. But I'm a Piggott grad, so Northeast Arkansas has kind of been in my blood.
So Cabot has been the only time that you've been outside. That's what I was thinking. I knew you were from Piggott, so Cabot's the only time that you've ever been outside of that area.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, and that was going to kind of tie into being at Nettleton and having so much success there. The 5A, I don't know that I've ever gone on a radio segment, especially up in you guys' area, with whether it's with Cade or Randy and Budrow, and not talked about how competitive this 5A East is. I know that probably the listeners get tired of me talking, but boys and girls, it's such a competitive, and I love NEA basketball. I've just always I've mentioned to you, like before we started, my dad is from the Southeast Missouri area. My roots trace back to Northeast Arkansas. So I have always had a passion for NEA hoops, especially this conference in particular. And as you know, there are no off nights. I mean, last year, just talking about the past 2 years, Marion was 6 or 7 games over 500 and didn't make the state tournament. This year, if the state tournament started today, as we're recording on Monday, February 24th, it would, of course, be you guys in the 1 seed. Now, Valley View or Marion's going to get the 2 or 3. They'll play this week. And right now, it's looking. I think Nettleton leads by 2, either a game or 2, game and a half, something like that, for the 4th spot over West Memphis, who is also 6 games over 500. So after all that mouthful, that just gives a little bit example how competitive this conference is. So just talk about that a little bit and just how that has made you better as a coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you hit it on the head, just because the 5A East in boys and girls, it's always been an unbelievable conference, and I mean, I just think that it's known as a physical league. I think that you got to kind of be a grown man or a grown woman to play in it and compete. But yeah, just through the years, for the last 25 years that I've been around it, outstanding coaches who do their homework. Kids that can just flat play. We've had several, high major kids come out of the league, boys and girls, and you better be ready, because 1 through 8, on a given year, a given night, the upsets can happen, and that's one thing I'm really proud of, is just being able to win some conference championships. It's work. And, I know that we have, we fortunately got the 1 seed wrapped up, but that doesn't mean that tomorrow night against Batesville or Friday night against Marion, I mean, we're going to have to bring it or we're going to get embarrassed. And that's just the reality of the league.
Talking about some of those great players that y'all have sent, we'll talk about a few of your recent ones. Now, I know you've had a lot of college signees over the years. Some of the more recent ones you think of: Deja Young, Alana Eaton, and Briley Pena. I think Briley's at Murray State, and then Alana's at Memphis now, if I'm not mistaken. Now, and Deja, of course, has graduated. But those are just 3 that pop off my head. I mean, we could probably go on just about all day. But when you have that kind of talent, obviously – hard work is the main thing that goes into it, just practicing at your game and all those different things. But I know for you as a coach, that's got to be pretty special. Yes, I mean, great people, of course, first and foremost, but to have that kind of talent, that has probably made your job a little bit easier throughout the years.
Yeah, no question. I mean, good coaches have good players. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, I think, when you talk about your why, we've been able to send 32 kids, to get their school paid for, and it may not be at Utah or Arkansas, but free's free. It doesn't matter if it's at a D2, a JUCO, NAI, whatever it is, and we're really proud of that. And matter of fact, one of our kids had senior day. Actually, two had senior day on Saturday. One of them was like a senior day times two because she was injured last year. But two of our kids had senior day, and it was at Crowley's Ridge and then at Delta State. And those are always really cool. But yeah, don't ever. Anybody who acts like that they have the secret sauce or anything, if you've got some players, you got a chance to be pretty good.
You bring up a real good point there because it's some kids, and I'm not saying like I'm just talking about in general. Some kids, whether it's because they get bad advice or whatever the case may be, it tend to have this D1 or bust mentality. And I like what you said about there. It doesn't have to be at Arkansas. It doesn't have to be at a D1. It could be at a JUCO, free is, or, whatever the case may be. A chance is a chance, free is free, all those things. But in this new landscape that we have with the transfer portal and NIL that all this stuff doesn't seem to be slowing down. What are some pieces of advice that you give kids, just again, with the new era that we've been, particularly in the last 5 years or so?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is that, I mean, especially on the girls' side, I think that maybe girls are a little more grounded on reality in that they may not go make a lot of money playing basketball. Now, sure, there's opportunities overseas and we've had a couple kids with those opportunities, but really the end goal for 99% of the girls is, if they want to go play basketball in college, it's a means to get a degree. And to me, I mean, I graduated from UCA. I'm living my dream. I'm not smart enough to be a Harvard grad, but if you're trying to get a college degree, you got to start somewhere. And, like the Wakiria Daniels is the kid who's finishing up at Delta State, and Wakiria started at a JUCO in Kansas. And, she went to JUCO, she took care of her business, had opportunity to go to Delta State and has had a good career there. And she'll walk across that stage, soon. And so, my advice is that you may play, odds are you're playing in front of a bigger crowd right now in high school than what you're going to play, unless you are at one of those Power 4 top leagues. More people, Coach Rogers and them are doing a phenomenal job at Arkansas State. And there's more people come to Greene County Tech to watch our games than there are watching at Arkansas State. And shame on everybody for that. But that's the reality. It becomes a job. It's hard. And, you get beat up. And so, no matter what level it is, if you're working your way towards better in your situation as far as, your life or your family's lives, then take care of your business and go get that degree and use basketball just like basketball has used you a little bit.
Love it. And mentioned a few of your former players here. Let's talk about some of the current ones that have been making all kind of plays for you. I know Sophia Gonzalez, she's been a little bit banged up right now. Could see her possibly back, this week. Just kind of just taking that as it goes. Wesleyan Burnside's another one. Maya Butler. It is Maya, right? I want to make sure I pronounce it. Maya. And also, too, JC Edrington have seen a lot of good things out of. And then you added another one, Amaria Johnson, who has just been an absolute beast for you this year. I mean, it seems like every time I check some of the box scores or just see stats, she's putting up a double-double. So she's obviously been a huge asset to your team coming in from Kennett, Missouri. So if any names that I missed, definitely point those out. But just kind of talk about how those players played their roles.
Yeah, no. Well, start with those seniors who, they as sophomores with JC and Wesleyan and Maya, especially you throw in Brooklyn Bowdler, who's, a D1 signee in beach volleyball, but Maggie Cole, who's a multi-sport kid. But those kids, they've been winners their whole life here at Greene County Tech. As seniors, we've got 8, which is crazy. You know, we're going to have senior night tomorrow night with eight players and 1 student assistant. But yeah, I mean, those kids have meant a lot. Those 3 seniors currently they're 72 and 21, as their high school career. And hopefully we can get to, I guess we need 2 + 4. We need to get to 78 to reach their goal. But absolute studs. Like I said, multi-sport kids, 4.0 kids. Like our senior class has over a 4.0. And they're just unbelievable. But then, you start talking about Sophia, who another multi-sport kid, and then Amaria in our junior class. I mean, those 2 kids are really special athletes, and when they're both on the court together, they can really cause a lot of problems for offenses, especially, but also defenses as well with their scoring ability. And then you throw in our sophomores, kind of led by Addie Ryan there. We got a lot of depth, and the kids really play well together. They don't care who scores, and that makes it a lot of fun.
And also, too, one of the things I know we're trying to get as far away from COVID those years as much as we can. But I know that your Nettleton team in 2020 was one of those that was affected by that. Now, obviously, it was kind of a good way because you at least got a state ring out of it, and that's about the only silver lining that happened. But that was just obviously a trying time for everybody. Only 1 and 2A were actually decided on the court, and then the virus made everybody else split. So just kind of talk about what that was like personally. I always do like to hear just the experiences and kind of what it was like for you, because it just was something that we've never seen before.
And we found out we were actually at a movie, and our AD texted me and said, "Hey, just stay where you're at. We've got to do some things differently." But then he just came and he talked to the coach's staff and the kids, and at that time, it was just like, hey, we just know we're not going tomorrow. We may go early next week. We may go at the end of the week. As history tells you, that wasn't the case. And we tried to we practiced, a few days that next week, and then they shut school down. And we did some remote practicing because, again, it wasn't canceled. It was just being pushed back, being postponed. So just absolutely crazy. But all the coaches who were still affected, we all kind of had a group, text message going there on the girls' side. And as it got to be about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we just started talking about like, hey, how safe is it for us to play? These kids haven't been on a gym floor. And, and then as it got to about 3.5 weeks there, AAA kind of, made the determination that it wasn't going to happen. And that was a danged if you do, danged if you don't situation there. But, I think that it was the right thing to do. Obviously, we would have loved to have played Greenwood in that state championship game, and I know they would have loved to play us. I think he probably had the best team. I think I had the best player, so it would have probably made for a really fun one. But it was crazy. And then, even that next year was kind of insane with all the restrictions and the buckets and the distancing and, wearing masks in games and all that. So that was a weird year too. But thankfully we're on the other side of that, hopefully forever. And you look back, some days it seems like it was just yesterday. And then other days it seems like it was, a lifetime ago. It's just such a crazy time.
And I know that obviously, this week you're focused on Batesville, you're focused on Marion, but I wanted to just kind of touch on the depth of 5A. We've obviously talked about the 5A East, in the central there, you've got Little Rock Christian, Bologna. I think BB maybe is a little bit of a sleeper too. Out west, you've got Mountain Home, you've got Greenwood, might not be the team that we've seen over the past 3 seasons, but still very talented, very tough. But then you look at Farmington, and the main reason I wanted to bring them up is because they've done what they've done, not just this year, but over the past few years. And they're just so incredibly deep, not just with their starting 5 that I think all except for the freshman Easton McCullough is signed with a college, but they go deep into their bench as well. And, without giving too much away of game plans and stuff, I wanted to get your take, someone that's been around the block and has done this for a while. How do you defend teams like that? Is it more of just like trying to slow them down just because they're bringing so many fresh bodies off the bench?
Well, I think, I think the first thing, and we actually played Farmington last year. We met them up at Highland and played them, and it was a pretty competitive game. They I don't know what the final was, but it seems like it's 12 or 13 points. But yeah, I mean, Brad does just an unbelievable job, and it's development as much as anything. I mean, that's how he's playing so many kids. He graduated some studs last year, and I mean, they're just reloading. And I mean, just 7 through 12, the development is there. But I think if you're trying to beat them, I don't think you can think a whole lot about like, how am I going to stop them? I think that you really have to you got to try to play to your strengths a lot, I believe. And because if you start talking to your kids about how now we're going to do this today, they're going to start feeling it, because they're not stupid. They know Farmington. They read the newspaper or watch these podcasts. And so I think that, if you don't believe that you can beat them, I mean, your kids are going to know that, from jump, because, you don't lie to your kids. They know. And so I think obviously, yeah, you've got to slow them down. You've got to do some stuff, maybe let Easton go get 40 and try to shut everybody else down, that kind of stuff. But, right now we got to worry about the 4 from the South.
Sure.
And, if you start looking too far ahead, Farmington's unbelievable. Mountain Home's unbelievable. Mountain Home beat our tail.
Yeah.
I just think that, I mean, Valonia's had our number last year. Little Rock Christian may have the best player in 5A. And then, just the depth of the East and I think there's some prizes in the South. I think that the South has proven to be a pretty competitive league. And so, we got to worry about obviously this week, but yeah, whoever that 4 seed comes out of the South, they're going to demand all of our attention.
Yeah. Well, y'all in Lake Hamilton last year, and I certainly did not, no disrespect to them, I did not see Lake Hamilton making the semifinals. They went on a run. So, but I'll tell you too, though, those Greene County Tech Eagles are pretty solid too. I mean, so you got to give them their credit. But well, last one here for you. I know we touched on some of the advice that you give to players in the new landscape of athletics, not just basketball, but athletics in general. And I think it goes without saying that it's certainly done a number on some coaches as well. We're seeing high profile coaches even at multiple different levels that are stepping away from the game a lot earlier than we expected. And it's definitely some adjustment between COVID and this new era. I truly can't even imagine what coaches have been through. But for someone that wants to get into the industry, maybe somebody that's maybe in college or in high school aspiring to, or even somebody that's been doing this for 10, 20 plus years, what is the advice that Jason Smith can give them, as that can be maybe some uplifting, positive messages that they really need, frankly, in this kind of landscape? Yeah,
well, I think, first, everybody seems to want, that head coaching job at a 5 or 6A school right out of college. And 2 things on that. Number one, I think you need to start off as an assistant somewhere or a junior high coach somewhere. I think you need to do that. And then number 2, you probably need to go somewhere where you go like 2-26, because that humbles you real quick. And then you're going to figure out if you really want to do it. But I think that advice is that you got to roll your sleeves up and go to work. It's got to be a 365 day a year, commitment and job. I think that culture is a big part of it. Culture's king. You got to invest in those kids. The result will be, tenfold. And then I think just day in, day out, you've got to be present. You control the controllables. I think I mentioned it. You never lie to your kids, and then you make sure you communicate to the parents, to the kids, to the administration. Just be as transparent as you possibly can be. And I know, people will say, well, I'm not going to discuss playing time. Well, I mean, that conversation is liable to happen, and you're going to have an answer for it. But I think that the more you communicate, and just the better off you're going to be. And I just think that Also, too, you need to never stop learning. I'm a reader, and I'd give people some book recommendations to read. I think that that you never need to quit learning. Go to clinics. Clinics are kind of dying. Everybody's just hopping on YouTube or Instagram and getting the latest play or drill. Go to clinics and then step away and listen to some good music and enjoy time with your family, because I think that all those things make you a pretty well-rounded individual, and that way you don't get too stressed out about it.
We've been talking with Greene County Tech Lady Eagles head coach Jason Smith. Coach, really appreciate the time. I know this is an exciting time. I mean, it's been an exciting season for you guys just about really all season, but I know this is the time where it's really the payoff. And you got, of course, a week left of the regular season. Got to give Batesville and Marion their respect, but I know, again, your kids are really ready for this state tournament run.
Yeah, they are, and if we can get some good news and get healthy, then we'll give it all we got, and we get to play it in our gym, and so all those teams got to come up to us, and that's really exciting. I know our fans and community it's going to be packed, and a lot of times state tournaments aren't packed. You want to come to a packed gym, come up to the 5A tournament, because it's going to be some really good basketball.
That's right. And definitely good luck to you guys the rest of the way. Up next, stay with us. We've got Earle boys coach Earl Miller. Take care. All right, and we're now joined by Earle boys coach Earl Miller. Coach, I know it has been a fun season for you guys thus far. When we had you at Media Days back in October, had a strong feeling that with the core that you had coming back, of course, you guys moved down to 1A, and you had a feeling that it had a chance to be a special season. I know you guys still have a lot of work left to do, but come into this week 18-3. You won the 1A3 regular season conference title, and as I said, got a lot more to go. So just kind of talk about what the ride has been thus far.
It's been a great ride so far, so good. Kids is playing hard, playing together, chemistry coming along about the time you really wanted to come around late February, early February, late January, coming along right now, playing good and playing solid. And then thank God we are injury-free right now going into the district tournament this week.
I'm glad you brought up the injury part of it. That's good that you're healthy. How have you been dodging the sickness? I know that on top of injuries this time of year, we're fighting off the flu and all these other things that are keeping us off the court and out of school.
Well, I'm going to put it like this. It hit me a little early around the Christmas while we was Harrison, and then we came from Harrison. So other than that, kids been okay. So it hit me. I think, I just got blessed. It hit it I ain't going to say it was any time the wrong time, but the right time for basketball.
Right, for sure. Well, and I guess that was around the time you guys hit a 3, and he played some tough competition, but you were on a 3-game skid from about mid to late December. And if I'm not mistaken, as of Monday, February 24th, when we're recording, you guys haven't lost since that time. So, you guys have really just been playing really well together as you expected. We'll go ahead and talk about while we're on that subject, let's talk about some of your top players. I know some of the ones that just pop off my head: Derek Lately, Jalen Robinson, Clifton Wren, and oh my gosh, Teron Hurst. What kind of season that guy? I see him all over Twitter all the time, man. Just dunking balls. He's a phenomenal player. Really enjoyed watching him this year. But your guys, it's pretty evident from now. I've only seen a few games here because I watch multiple games every night on Tuesdays and Fridays or whatever day they're on. But they just seem to play really, really well together. When you've got talent like that plays well together, you typically have special results.
Yeah, that group, and they were to run, Derek and CJ. That's been a great group I had since junior high. I think from their 7th grade to junior high, I think they lost a total of 5. Wow. And last year was a growing year for them, and they we're going to get it together. And so they came along, and Jalen Robinson, he bought in, and he's playing well with them. He's a senior this year. So he came along and played well with him. And also, I got, like I said, I got some other guys that's on the team there, man, that's playing good. Like Tony's Dorsey is a sophomore. He has come along here lately, and Dante Bell has come along here lately. And they sophomores, and they're not a bad. Those two are not bad. I got a decent sophomore class too. And also I had the luxury of getting, at the end of the season here, I'm getting Aiden Davis, which a lot of people gonna hear about because I had the junior high season this year. We went 20-0, won the conference, won the district, and he was averaging doing this. Well, I think they told me 28 for the whole season, which he had a good solid season. Yes, they had a good solid season. So I got enough to push him in practice where it looked like a game. Put it like that now.
Definitely. Yeah. And one thing, and I can't remember if I know I touched on this with a few NEA coaches that have been throughout football and basketball media days that have been at their respective schools for a long time. But man, you think of Waylon Dunn football at Mark Tree, you think of Barbara Wilburn boys basketball at Mark Tree, and that's just two off the bat that have been there for a long time. Then yourself, is this 24, 25 for you at Earle?
This is 25 for me.
Okay.
I took over as the head in 2018, but I've been in this the only school I've been at, and I love my community, love the school, love the area. My kids graduated from there, so it's second home to me because I'm originally hometown boy from Wheeler, Arkansas, small town next to Brinkley and stuff. But Earle is my second home, because I've been there 25 years. So, I got to love it to be there that long.
No doubt. And you basically just answered my next question, at least touched on the surface of it. But that's what I always love to hear. Because look, my roots trace back to Northeast Arkansas, Southeast Missouri area. So that area is very special to me. But it says a lot, especially at smaller schools. It says a lot about the community when you stick around like that. So obviously the great athletes, the people, and I know that's kind of what most people point to, but what is it really that has just kept you, not just as coach of the Bulldogs, but all the other hats that you wear as well?
Well, what kept me there, what else am I looking for? What else could I be possibly looking for? And I said, well, I love it here. It's home. It's small. I know everybody, and it's family-oriented area and family setting, so it's good. So I really do, hey, it's home for me, and I love it there.
Absolutely. And another question that I always love to ask too, because I enjoy hearing these responses, because you guys at the teachers and coaches at smaller schools, especially, you don't get enough credit, because it's not just bouncing a basketball and coaching a few X's and O's. It's driving bus routes, and not game bus routes. We're talking buses. Sometimes you got to drive bus routes 5 days a week. You're painting the fields for football. You're doing basically everything, with some help, of course, on top of that. But it's a lot different than, maybe a 5, 6A school. So, talk about the pride that you all take in that, really just wearing way more hats than just what you see on the sidelines.
Well, yeah, you sit there and I tell people, and they say, well, I'm not beneath. I'm one of the coaches, and anybody tell you that in the town, and I'm not beneath in it, because I also help with football, I also help with track. You see, as a coach, they think you're just doing the coaching part of it. You got to take kids home, pick kids up, especially bad weather. You got to do your floor. Just a lot of stuff you have to get done, do it yourself, in a smaller school, but you got to make it happen. But it's kind of like I always tell people, it's the home setting, that, hey, I do the stuff around the house, and and then you got to love the kids too. You got to love this kid, love this sport. That's the thing of it. And you want your kid looking good and looking right, and you want your school and your community to be proud of. Say, hey, they taking pride in what they're doing, because it's not about the win and loss. It's also how you look and how you carry yourself too, on and off the court.
And we talked about how you spent 25 years at Earle. That's the only school that you have ever been at. And when you took over as head coach, you took over for Billy Murray, who he's won a basketball game or two in his career. Had an incredible career there. Coached the girls and the boys at times. Now the main question that I have is, because out of all the state titles that he won, 6 of them total, there was the last 3 was right before you took the reins from him. Now, obviously, anytime that you're taking over for a legend, it does, regardless of the sport. I mean, it's always extremely tough to do. Talk about what that was like for you. Now, I imagine, I don't want to speak for you by any means, but I would imagine being in a familiar area probably made it a little bit easier. But nonetheless, there's still plenty of pressure with that.
Well, it was pressure from the start, but they said could nobody else handle it because see, I felt and the community felt like I said, well, he been there with Murray for those titles. He's right. He worked up under him. He learned a lot from him, which I did. And I leave a lot of credit to him. I learned a lot up under him, and along with the other coaches, I picked up some things from. But it was a lot of pressure because, a lot of time people have mistakes. Well, he won, you coming over winning, when you going to win the state title, when you going to do this and that. All that's understood. But I also tell them every year, it's other teams out there want to win. And I said, you have coaches. I said, let me explain this, y'all. You have coaches that's coach all their life. They don't ever win. You have coaches coach 35, 40 years, and they may win 3 or 4 out the 40 years. So let's just be realistic about this thing. If, we hadn't missed a state tournament. Earle has never missed a state tournament even when I took over. That was one of the things Murray put on me. He said, don't ever miss a state tournament. Please don't. He said, because, that's a feeling that you know how far you want to go. So I made it to the finals in 20. That's 5 years ago. That was my 3rd year when I made it to the final. And I hadn't missed a state tournament. I had a, above 500 record since I've been there. And I felt like personally, I said, well, I'm doing, with what I got. I said, but when you get talent, I said, this just ain't about, the X and O. You better have the personnel to go ahead and try to win it too. You just can't just show up. And I use a lot of time people ask me, I said, what I use a Wes Swift quote that he told me at the Rumble on the Ridge. I'm just still trying to figure this out. It ain't, I mean, we got to figure this thing out to get it done because you're dealing with a different set of kids each and every year.
No doubt. And talking about that 2020 season, I wanted to touch on that because, of course, segment 1 guest, Jason Smith from Greene County Tech, he was at Nettleton at the time, and only 1 and 2A got to play those state finals. So that was the only game that was decided on the court. 3 through 6A, of course, had to split them because of the COVID-19 virus. Now, you guys getting to play that, I had Trent Morgan on earlier about a month ago that you guys had played in that state final. Talk about what that was like. Of course, actually being able to get that game in, but the anticipation leading up to it, whether you guys were actually going to get to play it or not.
It was, I'll be honest with you, it was stressful, and he was thinking like, okay, kids want to play. Some parents didn't want to play. Some parents want their kids to come home because it was just haywire and everything. And so, AAA asked, do y'all? And I was like, okay, I want to sell it. I said, because the thing is, and as a matter of fact, we had this conversation the other day, me and Trent talk all the time. I said, I'm glad we sell it because you don't want that what if. I always had that what if. Okay, what would happened if we would have played? Who would have won? So we were granted and glad we got the opportunity to play, but it was a crazy situation that day because parents was ready to pull their kids. People didn't want to play. They was like, man, they shutting the state down. It was chaotic that day. But I was just I'm glad we got the opportunity to play.
And on that same token of state championships, that 3 in a row, and that was, again, Coach Murray in his career, as I mentioned, won 6, but those 3 from 2016 to 2018, you obviously work your entire life. You work your entire coaching career to get to the top of the mountain. Once you get there, I think there's this stigma, maybe not so much anymore. I feel like maybe that's kind of somewhat starting to go away, but there's this stigma that, oh, well, you did it once. Well, you should be the one to do it next year, especially if you've got a lot of returning players. But what a lot of people don't understand is that's when the pressure really cranks up because you've fed that beast, so to speak, with the fans and all those different things. You've also got a target on your back. How do you keep your players focused? I imagine after about, especially 1 and 2, it's kind of almost ingrained in the culture at that point. But how do you keep the players focused? How do you keep the fans happy when you have to continue to feed that beast?
Well, what I do? I tell them, I say, you look at the kids, and I say, you look at the turnover. I say, anybody tell you, sometime if you're going to do a rebuilding or restart, 1 or 2 you're going to do. And then all the kids are not the same. I said, the 16 team, it's not like this year's team that I'm currently coaching now. I said, but do they have some of their aspect, yeah. Do they got some of their athleticism? Yeah. I said, well, they not their team. I said, because you look at that team, I said, you had like a Gary Bohannon and a Marcus Brown. I don't have a Gary Bohannon or Marcus Brown, but I got one that's probably on there, got potential to possibly beat one. But I said, when you got that on the team, quite naturally, I'm being realistic. You should be in the finals winning if you got those kind of dominant players on the team. Yeah.
No question. And two, also wanted to touch on the girls because just like y'all, now, of course, as we're recording this, we're recording on a Monday. Tonight, you'll be playing for the district championship. So at worst, you'll get the 2 seed. I know you guys are certainly going for that 1. But the girls, as we're recording this, they're going to be playing Marktree, another really solid team, not just in the conference, but the state overall. Coach Jefferson, he's done a great job there. Man, that backcourt, especially with Jada and Journey, is a lot of fun to watch. So with all the success that the girls have had, too, especially this season and what you guys have been doing, talk about how that feeds off of each other. I know that a lot of times when I talk to coaches that both the boys and the girls have experienced a lot of success. It's obviously good, not just for basketball, but for the school's athletics overall and the school overall. So talk about how y'all feed off of each other's success.
Well, our kids, they know one another. And once again, Steve has done a wonderful job. He's got a tough job because now you're trying to manage. You got 2 good players there, Division 1 players there. But the good thing about it, get along and they share the ball and he do a good job management also with Coach Witherspoon there, which is my assistant also too. She has done, to keep their mind together. A lot of times, keep those egos in check. She does a good job helping with that. And yeah, he got 2 other girls. He got Ariana Perry, Madison Dunn, and then came along. And so Steve, he got a shot at it. Like I told him, I said, but just, the girls and boys have a little competition. Well, if y'all win tonight, we're gonna win. Y'all do this, we're gonna do this, y'all going, and it's fun and it's good to have. But the town has really been back in, because Steve was, he came behind the coach that had won. And so he has done well, man. A lot of pressure's on us because they always tell us, man, when y'all gonna do this, when y'all gonna do that. In due time, our turn to come. I said, but we just need y'all's support and need y'all to keep it, and be supportive on and off the court. And don't feed your kids' head with a bunch of stuff, just be positive about it.
Touching on the community, I wanted to make sure, and every time, especially I talk to a small town coach in particular, I always want to make sure I give a shout out to the community support because small towns, that's what people do on Friday night football or Tuesday, Friday night basketball. You know how to, and I was telling Coach Smith on the previous segment, I love NEA basketball. It's just a different breed than what else that you see in the rest of the state, from the fan support, the whole 9 yards. So just kind of talk about it from somebody who really knows Earle. And as long as you've been there, what has that community support been like for you?
That is well. It's good. Sometimes it get a little rough, when you go through the rough patches. Well, he need to do this or he need to do that. That's just armchair talk. People, they say, but like I tell them, I said, you're not in the gym with them. You're not up and down the hallway with them. And I know the kids personally. It all looks good on Tuesday, Friday night. I got all that. I said, but it's a 7-day week job. But the community does well. It comes out. And especially this time of year, they don't care where we playing at. They coming and watch. Like Saturday evening, it was a nice crowd in there for our girls and boys, just like tonight. It's going to be a nice crowd for a Monday night. It's going to be a crowd. So our girls play at 5 and we play right behind them. But they do well. I give it to them. They do very well. You got your good and bad, but overall, it's some good real fans there. Put it like that.
And wrapping things up here, I know that right now, and of course, I'm not a coach, but I deal with quite a few of them. I know this profession is probably as challenging as it's ever been, just with, the new transfer portal landscape. And of course, and that's just mainly in college, but there's also been some changes to education, as far as Arkansas goes in other states. It's a tough world right now also because social media can kind of make us believe things that a lot of times are not true, regardless of who posts them. But as someone who's been in this profession for over 2 decades, what kind of advice could you give to a coach that is either maybe aspiring to get into this profession or is already in it and possibly struggling a little bit?
Well, I would tell them, if they decide to get into it, you're going to go through some ups, you're going to go through some downs. It's not as easy as it looks. And one of the things is, like you said, that social media can help your program or kill your program. And you have to keep your kids in a realistic world. And you also have to have your parents in a realistic world. I got to tell them, I told, matter of fact, I had this conversation the other day with a parent. And I said, think about the transfer portal in college. You talking about a kid getting recruited out of high school. I said, now they done gave 4 years to a kid that if he go to JUCO, those years don't count. He can go 4 more years. I said, so this kid got to be doing something really special for them to come get it. And I said, so don't look down if your kid get an offer from a Division II or Division III or have to go to JUCO, because that's the realistic world. That's what we're living in now. Because you might have 300 or 400 kids that's still sitting in the portal right now. Or a kid might transfer to another college. They not leaving. They didn't give them all this extra time. So the kid, like I tell them, you got to work 10 times hard now. You just can't show up in the gym. You got to work. And AAU is not the answer. You got to work. You got to be seen. You got to you got to be doing something special right now, because college has changed it and actually kind of hurt some of the high school kids, but also it helped them to motivate them to play. They got to raise their game level up.
We've been talking with Earle boys coach Earl Miller. Coach, very much appreciate your time. I know you got a busy Monday as we're recording here, trip to Little Rock, and then you got a district tournament, but a lot of fun. But I definitely enjoyed meeting you back in October, and definitely look forward to seeing your guys for the rest of this year. I know it's an exciting time for the Earle Bulldogs right now.
Oh, yeah, man. Anytime you want to holler at me, man, because I enjoy it. Because, like I said, man, any exposure to the kids' community is not about me. It's about the kids' community stuff. I'm willing to sit down and talk to you any given time.
Awesome. Well, sure appreciate that. And again, really enjoyed having you. That'll do it for episode number 58 of Arkansas Preps Weekly. Make sure you subscribe, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any of those platforms. We are there. Also, make sure you check in as we begin to wrap up basketball season, also getting into the spring sports and baseball and softball as well. So subscribe wherever you listen. Otherwise, that'll do it for this week's edition of Arkansas Preps Weekly. We will see you next week. Take care.